Hi, it's Dr. Lori, the PhD Antiques Appraiser. Tonight, it's thrifting secrets about jewelry, prints, and ceramics. It's the treasure hunt game. Are you ready to play? Okay, let's get started. I'm going to put on some gloves so we can handle these art, antiques, and collectibles and talk a little bit about what we've got. This particular first piece is a piece that I've been waiting to tell you about because a lot of you have been asking me about jewelry. So what questions would you ask? How good a thrifter are you about this piece? This piece right here, which of course is a Victorian brooch. And I'm going to show you the secrets of how you can identify them so you can spot them at that thrift store, antique shop, and such. So what questions do you have about this piece? What would you ask if you saw it? What kind of information would you need? So we're going to start right here. Let's see those questions. A couple of things I want to remind you about. This is all about thrifting secrets. It's all this information from the PhD Antiques Appraiser so you know what's what. I'm going to use the Dr. Lori cam and let's get started. So I'm going to put this piece down and I want to put this piece down on an actual box. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to make sure that we don't scratch the piece while we're using it. We're going to use the Dr. Lori cam as I always do. So we have a sense of what's what here. Now, this piece is a beautiful piece. Are there any marks? This particular piece is not marked. So I'm going to show you what we've got right here in that box. Can you see that? Yeah, that's a good shot. So you can see that it's not marked. This is the back of the piece. And then I'm going to show you the front of the piece. Give it a little more light to get in there. Show you the front of the piece. You can get a good, strong look. You can get a good look at this piece right here. And what you're seeing here is a very, very typical piece. It is not sterling. It is 9-carat gold. Now, why is it 9-carat? Those of you who know jewelry should know that the different carat weights come from different places. So they use actual carat or fineness. It's not a carat weight. They use actual carat fineness in different places. So this piece is an English piece and it's 9 carats of gold. It's yellow gold. And you can see also the way in which this piece is actually put together. So it's not like a piece of 1960s costume jewelry. This piece, in fact, has one piece itself. So if you look at this piece here, you can see that it's all one piece. It's got a couple things happening that I want you to be aware of. First of all, I want you to look at the length of the pin. You can see the length of the pin all the way down. The length of the pin is always longer in a Victorian piece. This piece that dates to between 1850 and 1875 or so. So this particular piece, just about 1850, middle part of the 1800s, in the middle part, of course, of a little bit earlier than the middle part of Queen Victoria's reign during the Victorian era. So you'll notice again the quatrefoil form. That's 4 points, 1, 2, 3, 4. All four, the quatrefoil with the square toward the middle, those rounded areas are the quatrefoil areas. Notice that long pin. That long pin goes well outside where the C-clasp is. And we'll talk a little bit about it. It is not a scarf pin. It is not a chatelaine pin. It is not a pin for, of course, a sash. It's not worn on a hat. All good questions. This pin is a pin that would have been utilized, and you can see it's got a bail up top. A bail right here for, of course, a pendant or a chain, and also if it were to be hanging on a chatelaine. This piece right here is, in fact, going all the way out, and this is a C-clasp. I'm going to show you a C-clasp right here at the side. You can see it looks like the letter C. Pretty easy to see there, right? So that C-clasp, actually, the pin goes right underneath it. Goes right underneath it, and it clips right in, as you can see right there. Now, that's only one half of the story. That's only one half of the story of this Victorian brooch. Here's the other half, and this is what's going to help you date the piece. On this side is actually the clasp. So this side right here is the clasp on this side, right? And this side has a tube hinge. You can see it looks like two little tubes. Two little tubes, one on each side of the end of the pin on this side. Let me move that piece right there. And then let me see if I can get my loupe out. Maybe that'll help you a little bit more to give you a better idea of what that looks like. Can you see that? That's a tube on the bottom, and then the pin, which is going like a T, going across the piece. But if you're looking up and down vertically, there's a tube at the bottom and a tube at the top. It was a piece that would have been worn for usually mourning pieces. So it would have been worn for folks who had lost someone significant, like a wife who had lost a husband. This piece has, if you can see, the loop can make it a pendant, but the loop is also used so you can hook it right onto a chatelaine and you can hook the piece. But typically these are not chatelaine pins because it's not big enough usually to hang on a chatelaine. People use it as a loop. It's not a later addition. It's something that you will see in that time period. We move this over, let that loop do its job. We had a nice clear piece and then we got moved. So let's make sure you've got that. And you have to give your cameras a little time to focus. And basically what you have there is you have, again, that tube piece. So it's a tube, then the pin, then the top tube. And that's what you're looking at down here. So a little bit hard to do in that. Let's move this out for a minute. And let me bring you back to this so you can see. This is going to help you date this piece. So anytime you see black in these pieces, in this particular tracery work or enamel work on a piece of gold, you're going to actually be able to see, again, the way in which this piece will date. So you can see it right there, a nice shot of the top tube clasp, the pin that goes across it like a letter T, and then the bottom tube clasp. So the pin will, of course, move up on the hinge and then move back out, and then it'll be looped. Basically, it'll hinge right back down here on the C clasp. You see it looks like a letter C, and it's open. It's not one of those clasps that sort of looks like it's going to move. And notice how much longer the actual stick pin is than the quatrefoil gold piece. This tells you that the piece dates to about 1850. This is a mid-1800s piece. This is not the piece that you're going to see too late in the Victorian period. This type of clasp is a very early clasp. Now, other elements that I want you to be aware of in this, I'm going to put the Dr. Lori camera down for a second. So other pieces that I want you to be able to look at on the front, I want you to be able to look at this piece and have an understanding of the decorative element of it. So you'll notice that it's scroll work. They're incised lines, right? And this piece, in fact, has the long pin, and it's a Victorian mourning style pin. You'll notice a circle within a circle, that idea of some concentric circles. Usually the iconography means that it's a familial connection, people who are in the same circle, if you will. What's the unusual date or time period for tube hinges? Well, the usual date or time period for tube hinges is the early Victorian era. So the Victorian era goes from between 1837 and 1901. Usually you see tube hinges used between 1837 and about 1865. They can be used later also, but that's typically when we see it. This pin dates to about 1850. And that has to do with the design itself. The design is a quatrefoil design, and that design, which has those four or quattro, right, four actual curved elements, goes back to the Renaissance. They use that in architecture. They use that in painting and such. The pin is longer because the actual clothing was bigger. So you didn't have these thin little chiffon pieces. You had big, heavy clothing. So the pin had to get through more clothing. So you can actually bunch it up and you could hook more clothing to this particular pin. So the pin would actually, and a lot of these pins, people will think it's damaged, and it's not, it's from use. A lot of these pins will actually be bent a little bit because they have to put so much clothing underneath that pin, and that C clasp had to get all that clothing in too. That's typical of these types of pieces. It's a lovely piece. Other questions? You had some very good questions about it, but this piece, are these pins becoming popular again? These pins are very popular. Victorian collections and Victorian jewelry in general have been very collectible. And because they are plain, they're generally plain. They're not all that, they're not big statement pieces. A lot of people wear them every day. Yes, it is all gold except for the incised or cut in areas. And of course, the enamel tracery. That's the black areas that I was showing you. So you can see that right here on the Dr. Lori cam. You can see that the pin actually has, again, these incised areas, these areas that are, in fact, let me just get in there, that these pieces that are, in fact, the black contrasting against the other. And let me see if I can give you a better shot. So you can see that right there with the scroll work. So that's cut in, right? And then all those little lines, and then they go back and they actually design in with the black enamel. Now, the black enamel is a nice touch too. It's called black enamel tracery. It comes from the French taille d'épargne, and taille d'épargne, I'm going to put this camera down. Taille d'épargne on these pins is something that a lot of people like to use. This is a really classic, simple, very well-known piece. They were mass-produced, these pieces, in Birmingham, England, after the 1860s. Into the 1870s is when they start to be mass-produced. So you see this being mass-produced. So those of you who know the history, of course, of jewelry, you're going to see that these pieces in England a little bit later will be mass-produced because lots of people had them. This one, in fact, is not that. It's not the mass-produced style. This piece is earlier and very good. I want you to look for the tube clasp. Now, could you guess the value? You know it's gold. You know it's English. You know it is a basic mourning pin. And if you could guess the value, we'll see how well you do with, of course, Dr. Lori's Treasure Hunt game. And we all play against one another and have a lot of fun doing that. Again, these thrifting secrets are so you learn what to look for. It'll help you to date it if you understand when the clasps were made. What's in the very center? It's just a simple, I'll show you what's in the very center. It could be used as a cartouche, which basically means it could be used to, in fact, put an initial in there. But also, in this particular case, there's no initial there. There's no monogram there. It's just the concentric circles. And you'll notice that the design on the concentric circles changes. So you have a little rope design, you have a bead design, and you have the concentric circles as well. Sorry. That's my hands. That's not really anything that has to do with the Dr. Lori can. That's Lori's hands. Anyway, that's what you're looking at here. So a nice piece. So if you had to decide what you think it's worth, what do you think it's worth? Got some numbers going here. 1,500 is pretty high for a little piece of gold like this one. This piece is, again, it's a beautiful piece and it's a vintage piece and lots of people collect them, but it is not all that heavy. I wouldn't say that it has a significant amount of weight. So that's a good question too. You can identify, of course, by the weight, but the fineness is about 9 carats, right? So the fineness of the gold is one of the things we want to think about as well. Okay, so nice piece, wonderful, beautiful. Lots of you are looking at those values. I was talking to a client just today on video calls, and we were talking about some of the pieces that she was able to pick up at an estate sale for just a few dollars for pieces like this. Don't forget about video calls. They're a good way for you to get the information and get the questions answered that you want answered. I provide those all the time. So you guessed the value. You had a lot of good guesses. What's it worth? About $300. It's a beautiful piece. And based on actual sales records where similar pieces have sold. So a nice piece there for this particular one. That's a nice one. Also remember that you can learn more about the history of jewelry and how to spot those pieces and what to look for by signing up for my newsletter. So the newsletter, of course, is at drloriv.com. You can subscribe and it's free. It's easy to find on the website. All you have to do is go, of course, to on your cell phone or your smartphone, go to the menu tab and you can see it in the green arrow. It's a hamburger menu. It says menu. Click on that. Go to the specials and shop page. On that page, you'll go all the way down the page and you're going to see, of course, information like again, the Loupe and other information about things that you can do with respect to learning more. There's all kinds of information on my blog, and the newsletter will come out and give you that information, of course, right into your email box. So great. So great. Next piece that we want to talk about. Are you ready? You ready for the next piece? Okay, I'm going to put this piece of jewelry back here. Right on the jewelry box. You really need a good jewelry box. Don't forget that's also on the specials and shop page. A jewelry box that will not have things like, of course, pearls up against a piece of gold so you don't the gold doesn't scratch the pearls. So think about that too. Okay, so next piece is going to be this piece. And I don't know if you are seeing it, but this particular piece, really a beautiful piece. And it's on, of course, one of my favorite display easels, these table display easels. What questions would you ask if you had this piece? If you had this piece, you saw it in a thrift store, what would you do? What would you say about this piece? What kind of questions are you going to ask about it? I like to focus on these pieces that you are looking at, that the pieces that regularly come in. So looking at it with the Dr. Lori cam, I'm going to take it off of its table easel stand, and I want you to take a look at this piece, and I want to know what questions would you ask about it. I'm going to stop in some of the areas that might be helping you to stimulate some questions. Let's see if we can put this here. Get our Loupe. I hope you've gotten the Loupe. A lot of you told me that you bought the Loupe, that it's really a game changer for you. I'm so happy with that. So this is one of the areas that I would stop and take a second look at if I were considering this piece. Thank you for the reminder. I didn't see that whole note. I'm happy to field your questions tonight too. Any chips or damage? There's no chips, no. There is some crazing. That's this crackle pattern right here. Can you see the crackle pattern in the white? The crackle pattern is in the glaze. There you go. So yes, there is some age, is some actual heat and crazing, right? That's that crackle pattern that you see. But I want you to look in this neck of the woods. And there's a reason why I want you to look here. I want you to look here at this dark piece. Why? Because this piece is what? A piece of flow blue. That means while it's in the kiln, the oxidation, the actual blue will flow into other areas. Some of them will be very dark, some light, some will actually show this background. So yeah, Crystal, it is flow blue. That was the question I was hoping you guys would start to ask. It is flow blue. Now, most of you asked the simple question, but you didn't ask it yet. What's that next question that you want to know? I'm going to turn it over. Where is it from? It's from England. It's an English piece. It's an English piece, pretty straightforward. You can see the crazing very well in the back. That's another tip of what to look for. So when you look for these pieces, you're going to see that these pieces, if they have a lot of crazing, it's easier to tell crazing when you have one color that's consistent rather than multiple colors. You have to really search on this side versus this side where it all looks like it's crazed. So yeah, that's what you're looking at. Any of you want to know about the mark? It is not hand painted. Not hand painted. I'm getting flowers from some of you. And here you go. There's the mark. You ought to recognize it. And you ought to, since you look at all these marks, you ought to be able to start finishing the mark. So if you don't have a complete mark on a piece, or if you don't have a mark that actually has some kind of problems, you don't have the whole mark, then guess what? You might be able to add in your mind to finish that mark. That's developing visual skills. That's what I've been trying to teach you here for a long time. A lot of you are getting it. It's when you say you have a good eye. It's basically that your brain is telling your eyes, wait a minute, something's right or something's wrong. Crazing is damage. So you want to say, is it a bad thing? It can impact value. Crazing is a type of damage. People will say, oh, well, I like all the cracks. I like all the cracks. Well, the cracks are damage. So you can see this piece, it's Royal Doulton. It has the lion and the crown and the Royal Doulton, of course, D. And then at the bottom there, I don't know if you can make out that word, but that word is actually the pattern name. And the pattern name is missing its first letter. So people are like, so people learn the pattern, some of the things to look for. This is the Madras pattern. And this particular piece, when they did the mark on this small plate, when they did the mark, they actually see the Madras pattern here. So that's a difference on this particular piece. So let's talk a little bit about what the pattern is and why the pattern comes into widespread use. First of all, you're looking at this with the Dr. Lori Cam, and the Dr. Lori Cam is supported by those of you who in fact do super chats and super stickers. So when you do that and when you support the channel, or when you buy a mug, or when you book a video chat, or whatever you do, basically here on the channel, you are in fact supporting more videos so I can teach you in informative videos like this one. Having said that, this piece, if you look at it, is a typical blue-white piece, where there are many made of this pattern, many made of this pattern. This pattern is introduced by Royal Doulton in the early years of the 1900s. Between 1900, 1904, and then again in 1910, you see this pattern. I've never seen the marking on the edge. Well, good. I'm glad that I'm teaching you new things. The marking on the edge is relatively well known because, in fact, what they're trying to do here, they're trying to show you, again, this particular type of flow blue pattern. The pattern is based on Canton ware. It's very cleaned up from Canton ware, which is usually very dramatic drawing of blue-white. But basically, you'll notice the pagodas, the temples. You'll see, of course, these landscapes and the background of these pieces. Also, the flow blue, where you see the darker and the flow blue, the actual blue is going into the other colors. You can see it here where it's not white against blue, white against blue. It's actually a little bit muddier flow blue. Lots of people collect flow blue and like flow blue. So that's what we're looking at on this particular piece. It's a relatively small piece, but it does have all of the decoration in the center. So it's not like some of the saucers or some of the small bread and butter dishes that you will see. This is a bread and butter dish called a bread dish or a bread plate. This bread plate is not a dessert plate. A dessert plate would be a little bit bigger. I like a bigger dessert plate, don't you? This is a bread plate, and this particular plate would sit. There'd be a excuse me, an entree or dinner plate. Then there'd be a bread dish, a little bit smaller, and then later the dessert plates would come. There's a seam you mentioned to look for. So you're going to look for a transfer wear seam. Some of them are much more obvious. I looked at one before on another video that you can go and look and learn a little bit more about how do I recognize that. But there's also, on some, they're very highly recognizable. On others, they're not as recognizable. It depends on the quality of the actual transfer wear. So this is going to also educate your eye about which makers are making better, of course, management. Well, thank you very much for the super sticker. Thank you for supporting the channel. I know a lot of you are in depth and you're thinking, oh, I want to learn all this, but I hope that you will support the channel with super chats and super stickers. This is part of a very large set, Lori, yes. This is part of a large set. The Madras set is one of the most popular of these types of bone china dishes from Royal Doulton. So these sets relatively popular. So now your questions are answered. You know what it is. You know where it's made. You know when it's made, right? You know that. I want you to guess. You can book a video chat by going to drloriv.com. And there's information on the specials page, the shopping and specials page at drloriv.com. It's very easy to do. Lots of people do it and everybody loves it. And I love it too. So I want you to guess the value. What do you think? How much do you think this piece is worth? You know a little bit about it. You know a little bit about its background. Okay. So thrifting secrets here. I'm teaching you what to look for. Notice too that this piece actually comes from the tradition, of course, of the Chinese. So the Chinese tradition where you're seeing these blue and white porcelain pieces coming out of the port of Canton. Sometimes that's why they call it Canton ware. Asian inspired decorations like this landscape. And then they're utilized by, of course, the English. And the English will use them. I want you to notice the indentation too. You can see, of course, the indentation, how deep this bread plate is, and also the size of this bread plate. So it's a little bigger than a saucer. Little smaller than a dessert plate, much smaller than a salad plate or a dinner plate. So you start to learn, in fact, what should be on your place setting. And this is a nice piece. What do you think it's worth? Value on this piece, $45. That's a really nice one. The Flow Blue Madras Pattern Royal Doulton bread plate. Based on actual sales records where similar pieces have sold. So I want you to remember these thrifting secrets, as I put down the Dr. Lori Camp, these thrifting secrets, in fact, are going to help you to identify what's what. So a couple of things on this plate that I want you to understand. I want you to understand, of course, the contrasting color. And the color is not only dark blue against white, but it's nuances of blue. It's sort of this flow blue color. It's a light blue color. It's a darker blue color. It's a very dark blue color. And all of that gives depth of aesthetic or visual interest to this plate. Also, what you're going to see here is you're going to see something that's very typical in the 1700s. It's called, of course, chinoiserie, or things that are Chinese, chinoiserie. And even with the crazing, it is worth that, yes, because these plates are not all that easy to come by from 1904. So the crazing is not obstructing in any way, of course, this particular plate or the beauty of the plate. It is damaged, yes, and I want you to look out for damage, but the perfect ones, the ones that have no crazing at all, which are quite rare, are worth a lot more. So remember, when you're looking and you're trying to figure out, of course, appraisals on your own, you're trying to look on places like eBay or something. Remember, not everybody shops in the same place. So where you're trying to get a bargain should not be the place where you're trying to sell or market your piece. If you got a bargain somewhere, that's not usually the best place for you to try to market your piece to get top dollar. So again, and people don't always shop, just like you don't shop in only one place. Your buyers don't shop in only one place too. They go to the best places for them to get the best piece, right, in different places. That's true in stores, brick and mortar stores. That's also true, of course, online. So don't forget about that. If you look at this plate is a very distinct, what's called chinoiserie or Asian decoration. The Asian decorations that you're seeing are actually first introduced, my apologies, are first introduced, of course, in the the Revolutionary War or colonial period in the United States. So you'll notice this, chinoiserie, it's looking Asian, because Asia, of course, was seen as far away and exotic. And then you'll notice that around the rim is focusing on, in fact, all of these different types of flowers, some other repeating images of the buildings, some leaves, and all the way around. So iconography that you're going to see, or symbolism that you're going to see for these types of pieces from, of course, the tradition of the Cantonese or the Canton ware pieces. Really nice piece. The English make it great with great, of course, firms like Royal Doulton and others. This is a nice work. It looks like it's pressed in. It's not pressed in. It's actually not stamped either. It's transfer wear. And most of the work is done actually right in the kiln. So a nice piece. So as I said, I want to remind you of what's what. It's crazing the same in canvas paintings. No, Ralph, crazing is not the same in canvas paintings. When there is a crack on a painting, on the surface of a painting, that's called craquelure. And craquelure is very different. That basically means that the levels of the gesso, and then, of course, the gesso or the rabbit skin glue, and then the pigment, the oil paint, and then the Dacmar varnish are starting at levels to crack. And usually you will see a consistent pattern of craquelure on a painting that you won't see on a piece of ceramic. Crazing is different. So it's not called the same thing. If you called crazing to a painting, people would know that you didn't know what you were talking about. So I want to make sure that you get the right vocabulary. I've watched a lot of these shows where these so-called experts don't get the right vocabulary right either. So we want to make sure we know the right vocabulary. That was a very good question, Ralph. Thank you for that. So thank you too for the super sticker. I appreciate that, helping us to make more videos that will help you. So when you're thinking about these types of pieces, I want you to look for a couple of things. I want you to look for consistency. So consistency of the color when it comes to these types of plates. So all of these colors, while there are many different colors, you don't have a very, very garish blue against a very, very light blue. So you see all of these different colors, they basically will continue, right? So you have a dark blue, a light blue, a lighter blue, but then you don't have different color blues at the bottom versus the top. That shows a consistency of what's happening in the kiln. And then the flowing or the flow blue, for which the Madras pattern is very, very popular. People who collect flow blue specifically look for Royal Doulton Madras pattern pieces. And they look for those pieces because they're looking for that flow blue. Thank you very much for the super sticker as well. I appreciate that. A couple of other things I want to, Heather says, Dr. Laurie's really taught me how to look for quality. Well, I'm glad to hear that. There was a person today who told me on a video call, she said, Dr. Laurie, my monthly income went from $300 where I was doing this just for fun. I've been watching you and it went up 4 times that much. I'm making $1,200 more every month because I'm following and I'm paying attention to your videos. I've had some wonderful comments on video calls where people are learning from these videos and they're applying it and they're making money. They're starting new careers. They're having a lot of fun. Can anyone spell the name for cracks on paintings? C-R-A-Q-U-E-L-U-R-E, craquelure. And it is on my blog, which is drlauriev.com. So that's how you spell it. And it's good that you asked it. That's fine. So if anyone can spell it, let's hope I can spell it. That's basically what you're looking for. But lots of information about that, of course, at drlauriev.com and on the blog. So don't forget about that. Well, Frank, I guess, did another super sticker because he must say, hey, you know what, Dr. Laurie, I like the spelling. So I'll spell for you. Anyway, it's drlorv.com. Okay. Anyway, having said that, the thrifting secrets are here so you can know what to look for. A lot of you are looking for China. A lot of you are finding pieces. A lot of you are finding only partial sets. And that's something else that I want you to think about. Don't just walk away from a partial set. You may be able to actually make smaller sets from a partial set. So you don't have a service for 12. You didn't have an opportunity to get all of the Theodore Haviland or all of the Madras pattern Royal Doulton. That's fine. You could purchase the partial set for a small amount, and then you could say, well, I'm going to sell off a 4-piece luncheon set of that partial set. So you could do that too. A lot of people have success doing that as well. All right, now I want to talk with you about another thing that many of you asked me about. You asked me about this over and over and over again, and it has to do with prints. This print, I want to tell you, is a print by an artist named Eric Sloan. And I'm going to hold it up just for a minute. And I want to know, what would you think? What questions would you ask if you saw this particular print? So let's hear your questions. It's a print. That's what I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you it's by an artist named Eric Sloan. And I'm going to tell you that it is pencil signed, right? Pencil signed. And it is also, in fact, it's pencil signed here, and it is also signed in the plate. That's what it's called. It's not called double signed. It's called pencil signed, which is when it's on the margin in pencil. And then when it's part of the actual work of art, it's called, of course, signed in the plate. Okay? And this terminology is kind of important because when you're putting these up, right, if you're listing them for resale, you want to look at that. It is numbered, Rob. Good question. It is numbered. So the numbers mean a print run. How many pieces in a print run? So this piece is number 71 in a print run of 450. Okay. Now, if you know anything about the artist, you should know a little bit about the artist. The artist is very well known for this particular type of work, and particularly for barns and images of barns. The question was, is it an aquatint? Is it a lithograph? It is not an aquatint. It is a lithograph. But we've been talking about lithographs. We've talked about lithographs a lot. And this particular piece is a lithograph. Yes, prints are tricky, John. That's why I'm going to try to teach it to you. Because all of you say, oh, no, I don't know about prints, and I don't this and I don't that. And most of you who are talking to me on video calls, most of you who are sending in pieces, most of you who are coming, of course, to the Ask Dr. Lori lives and my live streams are asking questions about prints. So I want you to say, oh, I don't know anything about prints. I don't know anything. Let's let you know something about prints. Let's stop this. I don't know anything about print stuff. I'm going to teach you about prints. You've been focusing on something called offset lithography. Thank you, Frank, for the super sticker. I appreciate that. So let me tell you a little bit about offset lithography. We talk about it. I tell you about the Loupe. Have you gone and got the Loupe? If you haven't gotten the Loupe yet, I don't know where you've been. So I want you to get the Loupe. Why? Because the Loupe is going to open up a whole new world for you visually. And that's going to help you to educate those eyeballs. It's easy to find the Loupe. You know where the Loupe is. It's at the specials and shop page. Go down that page. You're going to see the Loupe. It's right there. And it says, go shopping now. Click on that link. Follow that link. Then you're going to get to a page where there's going to be all different products. Open up those accordions. See all the different products in all the different categories that I offer, that I recommend. And then click on that, and then it's going to take you to an Amazon page. That page, of course, yes, I get a benefit for you buying through my page, a small benefit which helps me to keep me doing videos for you. And use that particular page, because I'm not, of course, going to be shipping out loupes to you. I'm trying to spend time doing, of course, my videos for you. That's how you're going to do that. So if you go to another page, don't get concerned. As long as you start at my page, it'll be fine. Here's what I want you to see. This Loupe is going to teach you the difference between something called offset lithography and hand lithography. So the Loupe is going to teach you that, and I'm going to show you why. First of all, you have a piece like this, and all of you know, okay, I got the Loupe, and I'm going to go and I'm going to look at this piece, and you just choose any place in the piece, and you look at it, and you start to see dots. That's called offset lithography, okay? So offset lithography is, in fact, a wonderful example. Offset lithography will easily tell you because it's a mechanical printing process, whereas hand lithography is different. Hand lithography is basically closer to the artist's hand, where the artist is drawing right onto the printing element. So the stone in this particular case. Now, drawing right to it. And every color, in fact, every color has, of course, every drawing has its own color. So where you're going to see it isn't framed, so I can show this to you, because normally if it were framed, Sarah, I'd have to have a piece of glass over it, which would, in the studio environment here in the studio, would give you reflection, so you wouldn't be able to see what you need to see. So I made sure that I chose one that was not framed to try to instruct you. So that was the reason why it's not framed. Typically they would be framed. Thank you, Tess, for the super sticker. So if you're looking at hand lithography, which has a much higher value than offset lithography, which is done by machine. Hand lithography, where the artist is drawing directly on the stone. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your very nice super sticker. I appreciate that. That helps us. So where the artist draws directly on the stone. Remember, with offset lithography or mechanical lithography, basically what's happening is you're seeing those little dots of all different colors: red, yellow, blue, and black. Hand lithography is a little bit different because each drawing actually relates to one color. So the artist is actually drawing right onto the stone. And then the piece of paper is done, impressed on it, and then the prints are pulled. So basically that's how the pull takes place. This offers a much closer artistic result, and it also offers, in fact, a higher value. So I want you to know the difference between a work that's an offset lithograph with all those dots and a work that's a hand lithograph. That's why these videos are so instructional. All of them are. Whatever video you're watching, use the Binge link. You can watch all my videos, and watching them and rewatching them will help you. I know it helps you because you're all telling me, I'm making more money. I added $4,000 a month. I'm able to do this. I know what to look for. You've helped me. You've helped me. Thank you. Thank you. You know. All right. So here's what I want you to do. If you saw this piece in a thrift store, for example, you've got this piece, and now you're looking at this. I want you to look where in this particular case, where the shadows are. You see the big shadows? I want you to look where the shadows are, where there's a nice strong line. Why? It's going to help you to identify what's what. So if you're looking at this piece, and I'm going to turn this way, that's why I moved some things off the table so we can be careful with this print. This piece right here on the Dr. Lori cam, I want to see where we can get to. Do you see those lines? So let me give you an outside shot. So there we are. You see where we are on the piece. You see it's the light of the sun at the top of the barn roof, and then the red side of the barn. So you see that in the overall scheme of this. And then when I put the loop here and I move down, I want you to be able to get a nice shot here. Notice that they are not those dots, those consistent dots that you're always looking for. Notice they are not those soldier-like dots. They're actually hand drawn. That's what you're looking for here. And notice how the blue color comes above the red color. And you notice how those little striations of white come down, sort of like icicles on the side. You're noticing those things on the right-hand side. I'm in the loop with Dr. Lori. Yeah, the loop is great. And that's a good one too. Thank you for that. That's a fun comment. So you're looking here, and I want you to be able to see what it looks like when they do it by hand. I'm glad Daisy sees it. I want you all to see it. And it basically shows you how they're doing it by hand. I'm sorry, I'm moving this loop. That's why it's not coming together. Give me a moment. So you can see a nice clear shot. And you have to give the camera a little time to focus. You can see it right there. You can see the blue in the middle. You can see the red on the left side. You can see the white on the right side and a little bit of a gold tone on the right side as well. That shows you that this artist is actually painting it by hand. Let's look at some other areas. You'll notice here on this area right here, you can see again the way in which the artist has in the snow showed you a couple of little pieces of old grass or hay that are coming through. The rocks are there as, of course, the part of the wall of the barn. And then you can see all the way over here. I'm going all the way over here. So you can see Eric Sloan's. I'm going to get it this way. So you can see Eric Sloan's signature and, of course, the number. Here's the title, Winter, 71 of 450. There is his signature in the plate. It looks like one of those pieces of grass that he drew in. He drew that in. And look at that. That says NA. Do any of you know what that means? That means that he's a national academician. It's like when I put PhD at the end of my name. Basically, it's his credential. It's the National Academician credential, NA. He is, of course, part of the National Academy of American Artists. Also, what you're going to see is you're going to see some artists that have AWS, the American Watercolor Society. So other elements that relate to this. Are hand-printed lithographs rare? They are not particularly rare, but they are more valuable because they are put together in a similar way to, in fact, the way in which an original work of art would be done. So when you see some of these, it's not that mechanical offset lithographic process. It is, in fact, the hand lithography process. And I want to teach you this because there's a lot to learn. You guys are talking about prints all the time, and a lot of you don't know the difference. So I want to make sure you know the difference from the expert, not from someone who says, oh, I like it, oh, it's pretty colors. I want you to know why it's more valuable. Okay, so now you know a little bit about that. Thank you, R, for the super sticker. So I want you to see these particular pieces and understand why this piece is so great. Well, most artists have both hand-printed and machine-printed lithographs, or are hand-done much rarer. Well, it's not a rarity thing. It's whether or not these particular artists are, in fact, interested in drawing directly onto the piece, or if they want to leave most of the work to the printer. So every artist has a different opinion on that. What is a glissé print? Are they worthwhile? Glissés are different from the offset lithography process. We have a lot of advancements in technology, so a lot of glissés can really look very good, the same way that a lot of hand lithography pieces can look very good. So I want you to understand all of that. This is a hand lithography piece. Very nicely done. The publisher is here. It was done in 1982, and it actually is printed right on it. This piece is also done 1982, printed right down here underneath the piece. And it's on nice heavy stock paper. So look at the paper, because there's value in the paper too. You can't just put it on some flimsy piece of paper like, newsprint, that idea that it's just going to go out to anyway. So this is hand lithography, hence more desirable. Yes, Mary Deetha, this is hand lithography, hence more desirable. So talk about value. Let's guess the value. Thank you very much, Marcelo. Nice to see you. Thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it. I can help you if you help me. The other way you can help me, what is it? If you're not doing super stickers, you gotta share the channel. You have to share it. You have to go and tell people about it. You've got to put it on your social media profile. You've got to share the channel. I like Dr. Lori. She's helping me. She's going to teach you stuff. Why don't you take a look at the channel? You have to share the channel. It will help you. It will help you when you're shopping, and you can take me shopping with you. If you want to take me shopping at the thrift store, I will be on the video call, and I'll show you what you should shop for. I'll say, wait a minute, that looks like a hand lithography piece. Let's take a closer look at that. The same way you can ask those questions during video calls. You can do the video call right while you're shopping at the estate sale or the yard sale. Or if you're on your computer and you're looking at online estate sales, thank you, Christina, you can actually have me on a video call and we can look through that together. Lots of you have been doing that, and it's been very successful for many of you, and I'm happy about that. Today, a video caller had a Matisse piece, gorgeous piece, said, you know what? I just thought I should listen to what you said, Dr. Lori, so I'm using your information and I'm finding the good pieces. And I'm leaving the junk there. And that's a good thing too. Okay, so what do you think? Is 71 a high number out of 450 for a handmade litho? That's a good question. So let's think of it this way. The closer you are to number one, the first one that comes off, the closer you are to the artist's hand. So if he's making 400 of these, or they're printing out 400 of these, right, or 450 of these, excuse me, then you want anything that is basically anywhere earlier than 225. So the last half, in my view, not as great. So you want to have a small print run. But in hand lithography, because the artist has taken all this time, they have to, of course, recoup their time. So they're not going to get what they would if they used this time and they got a work of art. Eric Sloan painting, if he used that same time for an original work of art and not a hand lithography piece, he probably could command tens of thousands, even $50,000 for one of his paintings. So in the time that he took to actually make the hand lithography, he and his printer are thinking, well, we have to make that time back. We have to make that time back in terms of finances, in terms of money. So anything that would be before 225 or halfway through the print run would probably be good. So now you're going to go half of that. So now I'm down at what, 85 or so, right? Between 100, maybe 120 one way, 85 the other way. So I would say 71 is not too bad because you are actually at the first quarter, right, of 450, right? 71 is the first quarter or so, or the first 25% of these. So you're in a good early percentage. I'd be much happier if you were on number 10 or number 1, or number 20, as opposed to 71, but 71 is not bad. If you had a choice, if you're sitting there and you had a choice, then I want you to choose as low a number as you have. So if you had number 300, number 71, number 1, pick one, right? I can feel the edge of the print. It's like stamped into the paper. Is that a mechanical print? You're talking about two different things. So you might be talking about an etching. You might be talking about an engraving. You might be talking about a lithograph. Don't confuse yourself. What you're doing now is you're looking at the image and the visual, so you can use your loupe and you can learn it, right? So you can look at what it would look like. If you look at an offset lithograph, you're going to see all those little dots, and it looks like a machine, like a dot matrix printer. This, you saw it didn't look like a dot matrix printer. It looks like, of course, someone's hand is actually drawing that. When you say I can see an indentation or I can feel an edge, that could be the plate, which is the metal plate that's pushed down into the piece, okay? And when that happens and you see that indentation, that could be a lithograph. You could see the outside of the stone, the perimeter. You could see the perimeter of a zinc or etching plate or an engraving plate. So don't confuse them. Prints are tricky, and that's why I'm trying to make it easier for you. One step at a time, but a good, smart question. These are thrifting secrets. Now let's guess the value. So the value on this piece, number 71 of 450 by American artist and national academician Eric Sloane. A very characteristic piece of his work. It's typical, of course, of his work. He's known for snowy scenes, landscape scenes with barns. He's known for a book also called American Barns of his works. And you'll notice this particular piece is a hand lithography piece. I'm teaching you a lot, I'm glad. There are not a lot of other people who are in this space who are teaching you as much as I am, and I want to. I want you to succeed. That's why I'm doing it. Many artists will have listed artist on their tag. Which list is this? Oh, that basically it means that this artist was known to be a professional artist. So there are lists in many places. So people might say it's a list from a particular art school. It's a list from a particular art biography book where they keep all of this. So they think about listed artists. They talk about that. It's kind of old school now. You know, when I was in graduate school, we used that term listed artist. I think a lot of people use it to try to bump up what it is. But there are artists who are self-taught, whose works are just as expensive and just as valuable as some that are not listed. So that's a good question too. But when you see a listed artist, that's usually good. That means that there is some kind of background biographical information on that artist that puts them into an accepted, accredited art school, typically. So self-taught artists aren't usually seen as listed. And I don't always think that's fair because some of the self-taught artists actually are doing great things. Happy birthday to you, Linda. You've made it to 70. Well, happy birthday to you. Yeah, I do a lot of video calls. I did a video call last weekend, which was for somebody's birthday. His wife surprised him, and he was really pretty happy. It's fun to be a birthday gift. Anyway, so this particular piece, what do you think? How much do you think it's worth? I saw some good numbers there. I saw some good numbers. And Marcelo's thinks $350. Value on this print, unframed, right, is $500 for, of course, the hand lithography Eric Sloane, based on actual sales records where similar pieces have sold. So some of you might say, oh, well, I've seen these and I've seen them sell here and I've seen them sell there. Make sure that you know what type of print you are comparing it to, because a lot of people will make mistakes. I saw an appraisal by somebody else recently that in fact was evaluating a piece thinking it was an offset lithograph when the piece was actually a hand lithography piece, and they evaluated it too low because they got mixed up. So you have to make sure that you know, and you have to make sure that your appraiser knows too, which is why people are doing the priority service with me, doing the video calls with me, so I can teach you what to look for. And a lot of you are building beautiful collections of art, antiques, collectibles, jewelry, china, all different things, glass, using a lot of these tips. It's an awful lot of fun. Don't forget, there's more tips and more treats and tricks on, of course, my website at drloriv.com. And also you're going to see a lot of information that you can find if you sign up for my newsletter, which is also at drloriv.com. So when you're looking, I want you to take the loupe. I want you to use the loupe. I want you to remember that this will help you. And the other thing that will help you with respect to the loupe is, of course, the light. The more light you can put on the subject, the better off. You can use, of course, other tools like some of the other tools that I recommend on the page, on the Shop and Specials page. But basically, the loupe is one of the most inexpensive ways to get a lot of information that will help you find that thrift store bargain. I'm Dr. Lori. Thanks for being with me. See you next time.